Okay, chalo. Good morning, everyone. So, welcome to the session on corporate social responsibility, the accounting part of it. We'll do a little bit of theory, something which you would have studied under your Companies Act, the company law paper as well. And we'll look at how to account for it and what are the amendments that have happened recently. Okay. So CSR is a concept that has recently been introduced. You would all be aware of the provisions. So what was the reason behind introducing? Well, it was felt that companies should contribute in a more responsible manner towards the society. So the company cannot just say that I go on making profits, I go on helping my own employees, I go on increasing their salaries, making payments to them, get work from them, get benefits, and I will live in a kind of a shell where I am not responsible to the society. So for this purpose, corporate social responsibility was formally introduced in the Companies Act. The main content which I will be referring to is obviously your study module, nothing else. There are some amendments that have happened which are applicable to you. That is why this chapter is important. The other reason why this chapter is important is, apart from integrated reporting, this is one chapter where Ind AS has a very, very restricted role. Okay, only one case you can see little bit application of Ind AS, otherwise इसमें कोई Ind AS नहीं है. It is just a plain simple gap accounting that we are going to follow. Okay, if at all you get a question on CSR, it is a bonus for you. Okay, so don't skip this chapter, do it and go, so that you can get full marks for this. It will range between 4 to 6 marks in your exam, not more than that. Okay, so with that background, let us start with corporate social responsibility. So it is an initiative to assess and take responsibility for the company's efforts on the environment and its impact on social welfare. So why CSR was introduced? Well, companies don't function in isolation. Companies will obviously take lot of resources from the society or from the environment in which it operates. When I talk about resources, I don't necessarily mean the environment or the good things from the environment and polluting it. It takes human resources also. Okay, it takes human resources, it takes resources from the environment, and therefore it has to give back to the society. And that is why CSR is conceptualized with the concept that company has to return back to the environment from which it is taking the resources, that is the nature, as well as from the people from whom it is taking the resources. Okay, so it's the social welfare. This is what it is conceptualized with. Origin of CSR can be traced through philanthropic activities of corporations. Philanthropic means activities conducted for the welfare of mankind, that is donations and charity. Over the years, it has been adopting a triple bottom line approach, that is achieving a balance of economic, environmental, and social imperatives. So this is what it has evolved into. Now it is not just donations and charity. Companies are expected to play a more active role in CSR. So companies generally, earlier they used to donate and say, we have done our CSR. But now it's not the expectation. Now you are expected to take a more active role. Okay. So this is what you are having about your CSR, just the basic introduction part. Okay. Now, what is included in CSR? So it is a very beautiful definition given under the Companies Act. It means and includes. So you would have studied law, you know it better than me. Whenever you see the words includes, it is an inclusive definition. It is an inclusive definition. That means it is not restricted to the items mentioned here. It is not restricted to the items mentioned here. Anything that is in spirit a CSR spend will be treated as a CSR. So the first one is projects or programs related to activities specified in Schedule 7. So Schedule 7 to the Companies Act covers a list of 11 to 13 items, where it includes contribution to funds, where it includes programs to eradicate hunger, to eradicate poverty, programs to educate young children, programs to ensure gender equality, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, programs to carry on afforestation activities, programs to carry on cleaning of rivers, the Clean Ganga program, all these things. Contribution to funds for army people. So all these are included in your schedule 7, a very beautiful schedule. But is it restricted to schedule 7? Answer is no. Anything over and above schedule 7, if it truly meets the intent of CSR, can be included in CSR. So it includes schedule 7, or it includes projects or programs undertaken by the board in pursuance of recommendation of the CSR committee as per the declared CSR policy of the company. So it could either be what is the schedule 7 prescribed guidelines, or whatever the CSR committee has prescribed as per the CSR policy, you follow that. Okay, so it's an inclusive definition. It's not limited to schedule 7 only. Okay, now to which company is it applicable? To which company is it applicable? It is applicable to every company. It is applicable to every company, including the holding or the subsidiary and a foreign company defined under section 242, having its branch or project office in India, which fulfills the criteria specified in 135(1) of the Act. So it's applicable to every company. Sir, every company means listed company? Yes. Public unlisted company? Yes. Private company? Yes. Section 8 company also? Yes. So it is applicable to all these companies. Okay. Even a foreign company defined having its branch or project office in India, to that company also it is applicable. So all the company, there is no exclusion at all. There is no exclusion at all. Now, every company, including its holding or subsidiary, these are inconsistent. These words are inconsistent. इसका कोई मतलब नहीं है. Why इसका मतलब नहीं है? Because we check applicability of CSR on a individual company basis. We do not check on a group basis whether CSR provisions are applicable or not. So including its holding or subsidiary मतलब नहीं है. You check whether the parent company is individually required to fulfill CSR. You check whether the subsidiary is required to fulfill CSR, and then you do the analysis. It's not that once a company is applicable, holding be applicable hoga, subsidiary be applicable hoga. That is not how the CSR works. So these words which are there in the CSR rules, this is inconsistent with the section. This is inconsistent with the section. Doesn't matter. For us, it is simple to understand that every company it is applicable to. It is applicable to every company which fulfills the criteria prescribed in 135(1). Okay, so we'll see the other part later on. So you can see illustration 1. ABC is a company formed with charitable objects under section 8 of the Companies Act 2013. A charitable trust, or what you call a research foundation, all these are typically your section 8 companies. Okay, they are formed with objectives for charity or promoting research, these kind of things. So now for these companies, is CSR applicable? Definitely yes. Sir, but they already carry on CSR as a part of their activities. If it is a charitable organization, it would be carrying on charity, donations, it would be doing welfare for the society as a normal part. So let it do na. Let it do. In spite of that, is CSR applicable? Yes. So, sir, there is no difference between normal activities and CSR. Doesn't matter. It's normal activities. You can disclose that these are our corporate social responsibility activities. Okay. So, but CSR provisions are applicable. CSR provisions are applicable. Okay. So the company contends that provisions are not applicable as these activities are in the normal course of business. So whether the provisions of CSR are applicable, answer is yes. Answer is yes. It is applicable. Okay. So even for companies with public welfare, if they are set up, still CSR provisions would be applicable, provided they fulfill the criteria of section 135, provided they fulfill the criteria laid down in 135. We then move on to the next part. We'll look at these definitions as we move ahead. The main section the main section that covers the CSR is section 135. Section 135 of the Companies Act 2013 deals with CSR. It is like the heart of CSR. Okay. So in all, in section 135, we have 9 subsections. We have 9 subsections with provisos and explanation. So we will be covering 135 in detail. So this 135 it is done means your CSR is done. There are some cases where there are conflicts with the rules. I will explain those conflicts so you are in a better position to understand why these conflicts exist. Okay, and some amendments have happened. Those also I will discuss. Amendments in section 135. So the first one is section 135(1). Section 135(1). What does it say? This deals with which companies is CSR applicable to. Okay, so which companies is CSR applicable to? This is the question addressed by 135(1). So what are the companies? First one, net worth greater than equal to rupees 500 crores, or B, turnover greater than equal to 1000 crores, or C, net profit greater than equal to rupees 5 crores. Either of these 3 things, if they are satisfied, during when? During immediately preceding financial year. During immediately preceding financial year. If this is the situation, for 21-22, I have to check the applicability of CSR. So I will look at the financial statements of 2021. Is my net worth at least 500 crores? Or is my turnover at least 1000 crores? Or is my net profit at least 5 crores? If these 3 questions, any of them are yes, for which year? For 21-22 or 2021? Sir, for 2021. If it is for 2021, these answers are yes, then CSR will be applicable in 2021-22. Okay, so if I have to put a timeline for this, okay, if I have to put a timeline for us to understand, this is 2020, 1 second. We are in, okay, we are in 22-23, no, currently. Okay, so we have to check whether CSR applicability is there for 22-23. Is CSR applicable for financial year 22-23? To answer this question, check whether any of the indicators are fulfilled for financial year 21-22. This is the amendment that has happened. Earlier, what used to happen? We used to look at the previous 3 financial years average, and then we used to decide whether CSR will be applicable for financial year in question. So this was how we used to check earlier, prior to amendment. But now It's not like that. Now it is purely based on the immediately preceding financial year. Okay, so this is section 135(1). Okay, so you can check the section. The same thing is written here. We have discussed. Okay, we have discussed what it is, and this illustration 3 is for homework. Okay, this illustration 3, I will leave it for homework. Nothing, it's very simple. You just have to see, you ignore these years because they are not immediately preceding. You check 20x3 indicators, and then you have to decide whether it is applicable for x3, x4. So sales turnover is below 1000, yes, and net worth is below 500, that is also yes, but net profit of the preceding financial year is more than 5 crores. So CSR is applicable for the year 20x3, x4. So this is the first condition that we have fulfilled, the first subsection that we have studied. We then move on to section 135 subsection 2. Section 135 subsection 2. What are you going to do? Sir, my company has fulfilled the indicators prescribed in 135 subsection 1. If it has fulfilled, then you will have to constitute a CSR committee. Okay. If this is fulfilled, then constitute CSR committee. This is 135(1) only, constitute CSR committee. And when you constitute the CSR committee, what will be the composition of the CSR committee? What will be the composition of the CSR committee? It will be something like this. Okay. Companies requiring to appoint independent directors. Like typically listed companies, they normally have a requirement to appoint independent directors. So for those companies, the composition will be composition of CSR committee. At least 3 directors, of which at least 1 director shall be independent director. So for companies which are required to appoint independent directors, you will have at least 3 directors on the CSR committee. Out of those directors, at least 1 of them shall be an independent director. And for other companies, who will be there? At least 2 directors. 1 second. At least 2 directors on the CSR committee. Other companies means what? Who are not required to appoint independent directors. So this is what is your 135(1). You meet the requirements, constitute a CSR committee. You meet the requirements, constitute the CSR committee. So this is the first point. Section 135(1). Section 135(2). Disclose the composition of CSR committee. Disclose the composition of CSR committee. Okay, so this is what is your 135(2). Okay, the other parts I will see, and what is important we will make notes of it, and the other parts we will directly refer from the study module. Okay, so we have done this part. This is 135.1. We have seen this as 135.2. What is the meaning of what should this committee do? What should the CSR committee do? That is 135.3. That is section 135, subsection 3. The CSR committee, what shall it do? It shall formulate and recommend to the board a CSR policy indicating the activities to be undertaken by the company in the areas or subjects specified in Schedule 7, the amount of expenditure to be incurred on the above activities. So this is going to deal with where to spend the money and the amount of expenditure, that is how much to spend on CSR. So these are the things that you will have to look into. Where can I spend? What are the avenues? So that has to be given as a policy to the board, and it has also to recommend how much should be the spends on CSR. At the same time, you will monitor the CSR policy. So these are the functions of the CSR committee. So first one is applicability. It is applicable if in the preceding financial year, immediately preceding financial year, you meet any of the three conditions. The conditions being net worth 500 crores or more, turnover 1000 crores or more, net profit 5 crores or more. You meet any of these conditions in the immediately preceding financial year, CSR will be applicable in the current year. If CSR is applicable, you will form a CSR committee. You will disclose it in the report, the constitution, the composition of the CSR committee. What will this composition do? 135.3, it will formulate and recommend to the board two things. One is where to spend, the other is how much to spend, and it will also monitor the CSR policy of the company on a regular basis. So these are the things that you are going to follow under 135, 1, 2, and 3. Now we move on to 135.4. What are the board's responsibilities? What are the board's responsibilities? Okay, so this is also 135.4. Committee ban gaya, committee gave its opinion, committee gave its recommendations. Now the board has to decide. So what will the board do? The board has to approve the recommended CSR policy for the company. So committee places before the board, committee's role is over. Now approve the recommended CSR policy. Disclose the contents of such policy and place it on the company's website. So this is the second thing. And the third one is ensure that the activities in CSR policy are duly executed by the company. Committee will not execute it. Committee recommends to the board. Board will carry out the execution. So that is the flow. So first is applicability. If applicable, form a CSR committee. Who are there in the CSR committee? You disclose. CSR committee, what it will do? It will tell where can I spend the monies for CSR, how much to spend for CSR, and it will monitor the CSR policy on a regular basis. And then the board will get the recommendation. So the board will later on approve the policy, disclose the policy, and ensure that the activities in the CSR policy are duly executed. The activities in the CSR policy are duly executed. Okay, so that is the flow that is there so far. Now the question is, how much should be spent? How much should be spent? Okay, and this is where we start to see amendments, and this is where we will be making some notes. Okay, so section 135.5. Section 135.5. How much to spend? How much to spend? This is covered under section 135 subsection 5. Okay, and 135.5 also has three provisos. Okay, so first one, company in existence. for more than 3 years. For more than 3 years. Okay. Company in existence for 1 to 3 years. All right. So this is the broad segregation that is done. Companies in existence for more than 3 years. How much are you going to spend? So the words go like this. At least 2% of average net profits of the company during the 3 immediately preceding financial years. Okay, at least 2% of average net profits. So first thing is, it is at least. So can you spend more than that? Definitely you can. You can definitely spend more than that. That is your choice. Okay. Net profit. So we will also check what do you mean by net profits. There is an explanation to this, and we will also see what do you mean by what will happen in the case company is in existence for 1 to 3 years, and what will be the situation in case of a newly incorporated company which has not even completed 1 year of its existence. Okay. In this case, at least अभी 3 साल तो है नहीं, 2% of average net profits, 2% of average net profits of the company since incorporation. So this is what you are going to see it. Okay, this is what you are going to see. So abhi 3 saal to hai nahi, so whatever number of years you have been in existence, for those many years, what is your average net profit? Spend at least 2% of that. Okay, so it will be either previous 1 year, previous 2 years, more than 3 years, so previous 3 financial years. So this is how you are going to understand how much should you spend. Okay, so suppose it is the first year of the company, suppose it is the first year of incorporation. So will you check? Look at the applicability. 135(1) is applicable if you have met the indicators in the immediately preceding financial year. Now for a newly incorporated company, immediately preceding financial year mein to there were no indicators, and therefore CSR will not be applicable to newly formulated, newly incorporated companies. Okay, so you can write the conclusion. CSR provisions will not apply in the first year of a newly incorporated company. Okay, first year. So when I talk about year, I'll mean financial year. Okay, of a newly incorporated company. Is this directly given? No, this is our interpretation. So this is the first interpretation. CSR provisions will not apply. Second one. Done? Any doubts so far? Any doubts as to the amount of spends, guys? Any doubts? CSR provisions will not apply. Okay. Any doubts so far? No doubts. So let us move ahead. A company can spend more than 2% of average net profits as specified above. As specified above. The question is, can I carry forward the excess spends to be set off in the subsequent years, or should it be expensed entirely? We will see that later on. Okay, we will see that later on. Suppose I spent 3% of my average net profit. So I have spent that 1% extra. So can I carry forward that 1% to be set off in the subsequent years? That is the question we will have to answer. We'll see that as a part of our subsequent discussions. Okay, so take note of this and then we shall proceed further. We shall then proceed further. Okay. Done. It is clear. So Srinidhi has confirmed. Now coming to the provisos. First proviso. First proviso to section 135.5. First proviso to section 135.5. What does it tell us? Sir, 135.5 first proviso tells us that you will give preference to local areas. So carry out CSR activities or spends preferably in local area and areas around which company operates. See, a company cannot function in isolation. It will take some resources. So from whom it will take resources? Sir, immediate vicinity, surroundings where the company operates, from there it will take the resources. For example, you have an industrial area. You have an industrial area where your company is there. Your company discharges certain waste into the air or into the water, whatever it is. These pollutants, they may not be very harmful, but they will have some negative impact on, let us say, the soil that is surrounding the land where the company is situated. So in the surrounding soil, when it is getting affected, the fertility gets impacted. And because the fertility gets impacted, the farmers who are owning that soil, they will be having a reduced yield. They will be having a lower crop produce, or they will be having poor quality of crops, whatever is the situation. Now, if this is the case, the company should ideally carry out a soil, soil improvement activity, of the surrounding areas, because its activities are affecting the farmers in the vicinity, and therefore the first preference is in the local areas. Suppose you have a chemical manufacturing company. The waste of the company is discharged into the river. You treat it and discharge, doesn't matter, but even though you treat and discharge, some pollutants are going to go into the river. So you can, now that river water is ultimately being used by the people who are there on the banks of the river for drinking, cooking, for washing clothes, whatever it is. Okay. It is used by the municipality also to give water to all the people in that particular town or locality. So now what the CSR activities tell you, in the local areas, in the area where the company operates. So therefore, carry out a river cleaning exercise. Do a river cleaning exercise. Why? You are polluting the river, so you improve it. Basically, CSR has two things absolutely clear. First thing is, it must be a genuine expenditure. You cannot do an expenditure that appears to be CSR, but in reality, you are benefiting from it. So what is that? We will see later. And second one is, where are your operations impacting? In that area, you preferably carry out the CSR activities. Okay. Suppose you have employed workforce from the nearby villages. You have employed workforce. For blue collar jobs to do the production activity. Men and women, both of them. So now when you bring in men and women, the children of these people will obviously be in the homes. Yes, you are improving the social fabric of the people. So now what is your duty? The children are alone. So what you can do, you can build schools surrounding the factory. So that the children can be in the schools when their parents are working in the factory. You could do a midday meal program for these children so that their food and study needs are taken care of by the company. So work around in the area where the company operates as a first preference. Acha, iske alawa bhi, if you want to do something, you are free to do it. It's not stopping you. Suppose you are a company with huge profits. So whatever I had to do, I did it within my local area, but I've still not met my 2% threshold. Then the country is yours. If you are going to manufacture oxygen concentrators, or you are going to give ambulances to hospitals, giving beds to hospitals, go ahead and do it. Nobody is stopping you. You can select any hospital, any activity within India to carry out CSR. This first proviso only tells that give preference to the local areas. So this is first proviso. Okay, fair enough. And then we move on to the next part. That is second and third proviso to 135.5. Second and third proviso. So what I will do is, I will explain first one, third proviso. Third proviso to section 135.5. This is an amendment. It came quite a recent time ago. Okay, it was there in the previous attempt also. So it's not exactly a new amendment for this. Okay, so now if company spends on CSR an amount greater than minimum spends. Okay, that means it is spent excess spent. So what can it do? Two options are there. First option, treat such excess as an expense written off to P&L. This choice you make today, you cannot resurrect it in the future. Matlab, in the future, you cannot say in that year I had spent more, so I will set it off right now. That is not permitted. So no resurrection in the future. Matlab, you cannot claim in the future that in the past year I had spent more, but I did not treat it as a carry forward expense. I expensed to the P&L. Now I want to adjust it. Not permitted. Today you have to make a choice. And this is the amended part, what I am now going to write. Okay. Treat excess spends as prepaid CSR spends to be carried forward to subsequent years. Okay, so you spend say 3%. So that extra 1% that you have spent, treat it as an asset, carry it forward. So in the next year, if you spend less than 2%, you may not have the cash. So you can say, Acha, I had spent more earlier, which I am now adjusting, Okay. So how many years can you carry it forward? Can it be indefinite? No. Carry forward for next 3 financial years. Carry forward for the next 3 financial years. Even after 3 financial years, it is not utilized, then you will transfer to P&L. If such excess spends is unutilized after 3 financial years, transfer such balance to P&L after end of 3rd financial year. 3rd financial year is not utilized, then write it off to P&L. Transfer such balance to the P&L. Okay. Transfer such balance to the P&L. Okay. Is it okay? Have you understood the treatment? Yes. So 3rd proviso to section 135(5) is very clear. This is the amendment that has happened. So you chose to spend more. So you have 2 options. First option, yaar CSR mein apne ko kya benefit karna? Why should I benefit myself? Today I have money, let me spend it, and it's for the good of the society. So I'm spending more. Later on, I will again spend 2%. What is going to be the problem? If this is your attitude, fair enough. No harm in that. But you cannot resurrect the past expense which you wrote off to the P&L. However, today if you spend more, you still have an option to treat the excess amount spent as an prepaid CSR expense. Carry it forward for the next 3 financial years. Even after that, if it is not met, then you will write it off to the P&L. Beyond 3 financial years, carry forward is not permitted. Is it clear, everyone? 3rd proviso to section 135(5). Is it clear? Is it clear, everyone? 3rd proviso to section 135(5). Yes or no? Please answer. All clear? CSR expenditure, is it allowed for income tax as expenditure? Answer is no, it's not allowed because it's not related to your business activity. Okay, Sheena, it's not related to business. It is other than a normal activity. So therefore it's not allowed. Okay, Himanshi has confirmed. Great. So this is 3rd proviso. So now let us come back to our notes. This is the amendment. 3rd proviso to section 135(5). If the company spends any amount in excess of the requirements, it may set off such excess amount against the requirement. It may set off against the requirement for such number of succeeding financial year as may be prescribed. So this prescribed duration is 3 financial years. 3 financial years. It may. So this is a choice that is given. It's not mandatory to set off. It is a choice that is available. It is a choice that is available. Okay. So that is what is given. This is 135(5), which we are doing now. Spends at least 2% of average net profits during the 3 immediately financial years, or where the company has not completed the period of 3 financial years during such immediately preceding financial years. And this is first proviso to 135.5. So we have done first proviso, we have done third proviso. Sir, first ho gaya, third ho gaya, second ka baat karo aap. You talk about the second proviso. Okay, so we will now study second proviso to section 135.5 and we will also check 135.6 together. Okay, so second proviso to 135.5 and section 135 subsection 6, these are going to be done together. Okay, these are going to be done together. Okay, so now I will explain it with the help of an example. It should be fairly clear to you. After that, you have any doubts, let me know. So we'll do the example, you note down the example, and then we will read the theory. Then you can make a link, and after that also, if you have any doubts, let me know, we can address them. Okay, so let us take a company like for example XYZ Limited. CSR amount to be spent is equal to rupees 200 crores. Okay, so amount to be spent is 200 crores. Matlab this is 2% of average net profits. That amount has come to 200 crores. Okay, so I know today that this much I have to spend. Mere ko malum hai, I have to spend 200 crores. Now the question is, it is not yet spent. It is not yet spent. Okay, I have not spent even 1 rupee. I have not spent even 1 rupee. Okay, the words used is to be spent. Okay, that is nothing is spent except as mentioned below. Except as mentioned below. Okay. Okay. So now, first thing, XYZ operates in a rural area. An area like the Northeast, which is industrially not very developed. Okay, an area like Himachal Pradesh, which is still not industrially developed, or places like Jharkhand, Bihar, etc., where industrial development is still poor. So there we have set up the factory. We probably got some benefits in the form of tax holidays or something, so we chose to set up there. Now, as a part of my CSR spends, I had to spend 200 crores. So what I thought is, first case, construct a school. Construct a school. Estimated cost is rupees 70 crores. Estimated cost is rupees 70 crores. Okay. And I am undecided amount of CSR spends. I do not know where to spend. This is the balance amount. 130 crores. This is the balance amount of 130 crores. Okay. So 70 plus 130, 200 crores. So this is what is known as an ongoing project. This is what is known as an ongoing project. I have finalized. I will be constructing a school. Uska estimated cost is 70 crores. The estimated cost is 70 crores. Okay. Now pay attention. Now pay attention. This is for financial year 21-22. Okay. This is for financial year 21-22. Okay. Acha. Tell me one thing. The moment you are finalizing a contractor to whom you will give the construction assignment, will you immediately pay 70 crores and say, beta, you do whatever you want, I'm paying you 70 crores because my job is to fulfill my CSR spends. So will I immediately pay 70 crores? Answer is no. कल को उठ के भाग गया तो if that fellow runs away with your money, you will not pay him 70 crores. You will pay him based on the degree of completion. You will inspect the site, you will see what is the work that is done, and then you will ensure that you will pay only for the work that is done. Obviously, like any other construction contract, okay, even in Ind AS 115, you have projects completed over a period of time. So based on the degree of completion, you will make the payment. Okay, so by 31st March 2022, amount paid is rupees 30 crores. He had done that much of work. Out of the total estimated project cost of 70, he has done work that is worth 30 crores. So you have actually paid him 30 crores. Okay. Unpaid, or what we can call as payable, depending on completion, is rupees 40 crores. Is rupees 40 crores. Okay. This is an ongoing project. Matlab means what? I know that I have to complete this project. I know that I have to complete this project. So what the section tells us, if you have an ongoing project, the lawmakers understand that some projects will not be completed within one financial year. So they understand that fact. And then they say that if this is the case, then transfer balance rupees 40 crores to an escrow account. What do you mean by escrow account? Once you put money in this account, you can utilize it only for the purposes of completing this project and nothing else. You can utilize the money only for completing this project and nothing else. Okay. Escrow account you can take, for example, you have your RERA that is there right now. So in RERA, what is the situation? Builders, earlier what they used to do, they would collect the money from customers and divert it to other projects. So what would happen? This project would not be completed and customer would end up suffering. So now what RERA is telling, Real Estate Regulation Act, it tells us that the moment you collect the money from customers, at least 70% of that amount can be spent only for this project. So customers will deposit their money in the RERA escrow account and company can withdraw 70% only for the purposes of this project. Remaining 30% it can do whatever it wants, but 70% of that amount should go only for the purposes of this project. Similarly, you have something known as a capital gains account scheme. So if you have sold a flat and you want to save the capital gains by constructing a house within the next 3 years, but you have to file your return within by 31st July, then what do? You claim the deduction, but you have to show that you have parked the money somewhere from the gains that you have got. So park the money in an escrow account, and the money in that escrow account will be utilized for constructing your house property over the next 3 years. So that is the premise on which this section stands. Now this escrow account will be known as unspent CSR account. Okay, unspent CSR account. It is a special account. You can use this money only for the purposes of what? You can use it only for the purposes of this school. Within 30 days from end of financial year, that is by 30th April 2022. That is by 30th April 2022. Sir, you know where to spend. तो देरी किस बात का सर? 30 days बहुत, अरे क्या कम टाइम है यार, it's not a less time. You know where you have to spend, park the money there. अपने को पता है we have to do CSR. So it is an obligation that is sitting upon us. So transfer the money to the escrow account and behave as if you have spent that amount. That's it. Okay, so within 30 days from end of financial year, you will transfer it. And now, what the section says, complete the ongoing project. Complete the ongoing project by, you are given 2022-23, 2023-24, 2024-25. So you have to complete it by 31st March 2025. Okay. Complete the ongoing project by 31st March 2025. That is within 3 financial years from end of current financial year. So complete it by 31st March 2025. Look, I know where to spend the money. I have an ongoing project. You should have the intention to complete that. So when you have the intention to complete that, it should be visible. Na? So 3 years, whatever project is there, 3 years is more than sufficient to complete that. Okay. So within 3 financial years from end of the current financial year, you have to complete. If you have completed and spent the amount, absolutely no problem. Absolutely no problem. If you have not spent, if project is incomplete even by 31st March 2025, comma, transfer the unspent amount to funds specified in Schedule 7. Specified in Schedule 7 by 30th April 2025. That is within 30 days from end of third financial year. Within 30 days from end of third financial year. Very simple. Government tells, beta, you have to complete your project by 31st March. That intent should be there. Even if the project is not completed after 3 years, government will say, I am not sure whether you will complete the project or not. Kitna time chahiye aapko? I have already given you 3 years. Now, enough is enough. At the end of the third financial year, if you have still not completed the ongoing project, within 30 days of the third financial year, that means in our example, by 30th April 2025, whatever the amounts you have not spent, transfer it to the schedule, transfer it to the fund mentioned in Schedule 7. What funds are mentioned? PM's National Relief Fund, PM Cares Fund, or Swachh Bharat Kosh, or Army Veterans Fund, or whatever, the whole host of funds are given. Anywhere you put the money in that, and that means you have fulfilled your obligation. That means you have fulfilled your obligations. Okay. This is the story in the case of what you can say, ongoing project. Acha. Now, suppose I spend, see, I had spent 30 crores. I have to still spend 40 crores. Suppose I spend 10 crores in 22-23. I spend another 15 crores in 23-24. Does it mean the spends of these 10 and 15 crores in 22, 23, 23, 24, will they be treated as a part of CSR expenditure for 22, 23 and 23, 24? Answer is no. 22, 23, if CSR is applicable, if in 22, 23 CSR is applicable, and basis your calculations, the amount of spends should be 150 crores, for example. If it has to be 150 crores, you cannot say that whatever I'm spending for this ongoing project will be a part of 150 crores. You cannot say that. You cannot say that. That 150 crores is separate. This unspent CSR account, whatever is there, it is over and above the subsequent year's CSR liability. It is over and above the subsequent period's liability. Okay, so that is very important for us to remember. Okay, amounts paid towards ongoing projects in 22-23, 23-24 and 24-25 are over and above the CSR liability for such respective years. For such respective years. Okay, so I hope that that part is clear. Okay, so it's not going to form a part of CSR of those years. It's over and above that. Okay, so this is important. Make a note of this. Okay, so ongoing project is clear. Ongoing project is clear. Okay, you have to transfer the money to an escrow account within 30 days from end of the current financial year. Complete the project within 3 financial years. If not completed within 30 days from end of the third financial year, you will transfer the amount to a fund specified in Schedule 7 by within 30 days. Okay, if these conditions are fulfilled, you would be deemed to have satisfied the CSR reporting requirements for financial year 21-22. Agar ye khatam nahi hua, if this is not fulfilled, then it would mean you've not complied with the CSR provisions. Then you will be subjected to penalties. Then you will be subjected to penalties. Okay. Is ongoing project clear? Yes. Acha. Is ongoing project clear? Is ongoing project clear, everyone? Sheena Jain, Srinidhi, Himanshi, is it clear? Yes, please confirm. Is it clear, everyone? Ongoing project, is it clear? Yes, okay. So now coming to the other part. Sir, company does not know where to spend. We thought we will decide. 31st March aa gaya. I have not yet decided where to spend. Now it is an obligation on the company. You have to spend 200 crores. Out of 270 is clear now. The problem is with 130 crores. What do I do with this 130 crores? I do not know where to spend. So now the government will come and tell, look, you don't know where to spend. Let us help you. You give that 130 crores to us. Sir, where to give? In any of the funds specified in Schedule 7. You give the money to those funds and it will be deemed that you have spent the amount on CSR. Acha, within what time should I give? Within 6 months from the end of the financial year. That means by 30th September 2022, you should deposit that amount in any of the funds. Okay. So undecided amount, transfer to the funds mentioned in Schedule 7. Within 6 months from end of financial year, that is before 30th September, on or before 30th September 2022, on or before 30th September 2022. Okay, so this is what is your provision in case of an undecided amount. Okay, if a company wants to spend further amount in subsequent years in the same project as a part of CSR activity for that year, so Sheena Jain, I assume you are saying subsequent years, you are talking about project cost escalation, or are you talking about something else? Please confirm. Okay, not sure. It has to spend 40 crores for sure, balance. Okay, now if you are saying that the project cost escalated and 70 became 80, so now can it spend 80 crores? Yes, now project requires you to spend 80, so you will be spending 50. Now out of 50, 40 crores would be a part of CSR expense for 21-22. That extra 10 crores, whenever the liability arises for that, it will be CSR expenditure of that respective financial year. Okay, it will be CSR expense of that particular financial year. Okay, so I hope I have understood your question clearly. Okay, so undecided amount is done, ongoing project is done. So this undecided project, this undecided amount, what we have discussed, this is nothing but second proviso to section 135(5). This is second proviso to section 135(5). And this ongoing project is nothing but section 135(6). This is nothing but section 135 subsection 6. Okay, so we have covered 135(1), we have covered 135(2), 135(3), 135(4) also is done, 135(5) is done, 135(6) is done. Okay, 135(6) is done. Okay, all right, so is it clear? Yes, CSR spends, yes or no? All clear? So now we come back to the notes, to the textbook, and let us understand now. Okay, any amount remaining unspent pursuant to any ongoing project. So this is ongoing project 135 subsection 6. This is 135 subsection 6. Undertaken by a company in pursuance of its CSR policy, you shall transfer it within 30 days of the end of the financial year to a special account, which is called as unspent CSR account. So we discussed by 30th April 2022, transfer it to unspent corporate social responsibility account. Such amount shall be spent by the company within 3 financial years from the end of the date of the transfer. Failing which, transfer it to a fund within 30 days from completion of the 3rd financial year. Transfer it to the completion of the, transfer it to that fund within 30 days from date of completion of the 3rd financial year. Okay, so what we discussed 135(6), absolutely clear. There should not be any doubts. We have discussed it fairly exhaustive. Okay. Sai Ram, undecided amount means I do not know where to spend. I do not know where to spend. Okay. I know that CSR for 21-22 is 200 crores. But I have not yet decided where should I put this money. I went on postponing, and by 31st March 22 I came to know यार मैंने कुछ spend किया ही नहीं है. I have not spent anything. So where do I spend? Not clear. So transfer it to a fund in schedule 7. Transfer it to a fund in schedule 7. Is it okay? Yes. Is it fine? That is the meaning of undecided amount. Undecided amount means not clear where should I spend. Not clear where should I spend even after the year is completed. Okay. So this is the amendment that has happened. Okay. This is the amendment that has happened. Okay. This is the amendment. It's not a recent one. It was there for the earlier one also, the earlier exam also, but this was amended. See, earlier what was the case was 135.5 second proviso read that if you are unable to spend 2%, give reasons why you are unable to spend. And we are very good at giving reasons. Apne ko to bahana matlab we can easily find out an excuse why we have not spent. Okay. So many companies started doing that. So they started taking advantage of this loophole. So to plug this loophole, the government came out with this amendment saying that if you do not know where to spend, then we will help you. Whatever is the undecided amount which you do not know where to spend, put it in any of the funds. And that takes care of the CSR responsibility. Is it okay? Yes. Sairam, is it clear? Sheena Jain clear? Srinidhi clear? Himanshi clear? Everyone, is it clear? Yes. Is it clear, everyone? Is it all clear? Guys, please confirm. Please confirm. Okay. So that is 135.6. Yes. So this is 135.6 and second proviso. Okay. All clear, I hope. Okay. So then let us proceed. If a company defaults in complying with 135.5 and 135.6. Okay, so what is 135.5? Spending at least 2% and 135.6 that ongoing project. Okay. If it defaults, then company shall be liable to a penalty of twice the amount required to be transferred to the fund specified in Schedule 7 or the unspent CSR account, as the case may be, or 1 crore rupees, whichever is less. So the minimum penalty that is there is 1 crore rupees. Okay, minimum penalty which minimum penalty is not 1 crore. It is a lower of 1 crore or whatever you have to spend twice of that. Okay, so that is how you are going to pay the penalty. Okay, that is how you are going to pay the penalty. All right. In addition, every officer of the company who is in default shall be liable to a penalty of 1/10 of the amount required to be transferred to such fund or the unspent CSR account, or 2 lakh rupees, whichever is less. Okay. So 1/10 of the amount or 2 lakhs, whichever is less. So this is the penal provisions under 135.7. This is the penal provisions under 135.7. Okay, these are your penal provisions. Okay. 135.8. It is a general section. 135.8 क्या बोलता है? The government can give directions as to which company should follow CSR, and if that is the case, such companies shall follow CSR. Okay, so government, it's not there for you, you need not write it down also. Government can give directions to a company or class of companies to ensure compliance with CSR. And obviously, such company or class of companies have to comply. This is just to maintain the continuity. 135.8. And this is 135.9, where the amount to be spent under subsection 5, that 2% spends, it does not exceed 50 lakh rupees. It does not exceed 50 lakh rupees. The requirement for constitution of CSR committee shall not be applicable. Sir, spending amount is less than 50 lakhs means it's not material. And therefore, CSR committee kyun chahiye? See, if you put a committee, you will have to pay sitting fees, you will have to incur expenditure, uska minutes alag se maintain karo, go for approval, lot of documentation. So we don't want all that. 50 lakhs is the materiality threshold for forming a CSR committee. What you can do is, if the CSR committee is not formed, you can fulfill the responsibilities of the CSR committee by the board of directors itself. So that is your 135.9. That is your 135 subsection 9. Is it okay? Yes, all clear. All the 9 clauses clear, everyone. All the 9 clauses clear. 135.1. Indicators are given. If the indicators are fulfilled, then we have to constitute a CSR committee. So that is 135.1. 135.2, disclose the composition of the CSR committee. 135.3, what should the CSR committee do? It will tell where can you spend. It will also tell how much to spend. It will monitor the CSR policy. So it will formulate and recommend where to spend, how much to spend, and monitor the CSR policy. 135.4, what should the board do? Well, the CSR committee will give directions, the policy to the board. Board should ensure that it discloses the policy and it ensures implementation. So that is what is the function of the board. 135.5 discusses about how much to spend. 2% of average net profits for the immediately 3 preceding financial years. This is the amount of spends. Okay. 135.5, first proviso tells us what? First proviso tells us preferably spend in local areas or the areas where the company is situated. If not, then you can move to areas within India. So that is first proviso. Third proviso, what does it tell? If you have spent more than what is required, you have 2 options. Either treat it as an expense, transfer to P&L, you cannot resurrect it in the future. Or the second option is transfer the excess spent as a prepaid CSR expense and adjust it in the subsequent period. For how many years? For 3 financial years. After that also not spent, then you transfer it to P&L, whatever is the unadjusted amount. So that is third proviso. Second proviso and 135.6. Second proviso and 135.6, you have CSR spends. Now, if it is relating to an ongoing project, as per 135 subsection 6, what are you going to do? I will transfer it to an unspent CSR account within how many days? Within 30 days from the end of financial year. You have to ensure you complete the project within 3 financial years. If you are not completed, then within 30 days from end of the 3rd financial year, you will transfer whatever is the unspent amount to one of the funds specified in Schedule 7. This is 135 subsection 6. Second proviso to 135.5 tells us that if you are having you have been indecisive about where to spend, and as a result you have not spent anything, then within 6 months from end of the financial year, transfer the amount to one of the funds specified in Schedule 7, and it will be deemed that you have fulfilled your CSR obligations. So this is 135.6 and 135.5. 135.7, penal provisions for the company, twice of expense or 1 crore, whichever is less. For the officers also, 1/10 of the expense or 2 lakhs, whichever is less, for every officer in default, okay, of the company in default. So 135.7. 135.8, government can give directions to companies to which CSR will be applicable, and such companies or class of companies should comply with the directions. 135.9, if your CSR spends do not cross 50 lakhs, do not create a CSR committee. You can have the board only discharging the responsibilities of the CSR committee. So this is your 135 in broad detail. This is 135 in great detail. Okay. Acha, one small thing is left, that is net profit. Net profit we have been discussing. So we are having explanation to section 135.5. What is explanation to 135.5? It tells us what is the meaning of net profit. What is the meaning of net profit? Net profit computed as per section 198. And what section 198 is? It deals with computation of net profit for the purposes of section 197, which deals with net profit for managerial remuneration. That is net profit for the purposes of managerial remuneration. For the purposes of managerial remuneration. Is it okay? Yes. Is it fine? Any doubts now? 135 section, is it clear? Yes. Sure? अरे बोलो, सब समझ में आ गया? 135 all clear? Sheena Jain has confirmed. I have revised. Others can also respond. So 135 is done. Go through this chart for your homework. Okay. Nothing is there which we have not discussed in this. Okay. All right. Okay. So ABC Limited manufactures consumable goods. It has decided that for every pack, 80 paise will go towards Save Trees Foundation, which will qualify as a CSR. At the end, 25,000 packs were sold. So 25,000 into 0.8 is equal to 20,000. Total of 20,000 was recognized as a CSR expenditure. This amount was not paid to the foundation. Will 20,000 qualify as a CSR expenditure? You must have seen this classmate notebooks. Okay, these classmate notebooks, what they do, they will mention at the end of each notebook cover, they mention for every classmate notebook that you buy, 1 rupee will go towards educating the children, the underprivileged children. Or you look at companies like Make My Trip. Okay, for every booking that you make, there is an option to pay 10 rupees extra, which it will set aside for COVID related charities. Okay, now they are selling the goods and they are earmarking. That means whatever you pay, how much they do, I do not know, but they are earmarking, at least on the face of it. Is earmarking sufficient to say that you have done CSR spends? Answer is no. You have to actually make the payment. You have to actually make the payment. To qualify the amount, it has to be spent. It has to be spent. And that is why you cannot just say that CSR expenditure is done by earmarking. वो नहीं चलेगा. You will have to spend that amount. So, will it be CSR expenditure? Answer is no. Answer is no. Okay. Answer is no. It's not a CSR expenditure. So this is done. Read up 198 homework. This is what you would have studied in your intermediate when you used to do company final accounts. Okay. It includes some additions, some deletions, whatever is there. Okay. So go through this 198. It's purely theoretical. I don't have anything of value to add in that. Okay. All right. Now, coming to certain important points on CSR activities. Okay. CSR activities. The CSR activities shall be undertaken by the company as per its policy as projects or programs or activities, either new or ongoing. Okay, so this is what you are going to do. You can undertake the CSR activities either through a company established under Section 8 or a registered trust or through a registered society established by the company either singly or along with any other company. Infosys. Now, Infosys is a company to which CSR is applicable. So how Infosys does its CSR activities is, Infosys has also created a Section 8 company known as Infosys Foundation. So Infosys will put the money in Infosys Foundation, and Infosys Foundation is independently run. Okay, its job is only charitable activities. So Infosys Foundation is carrying on the CSR activities of Infosys, is carrying on the CSR activities of Infosys. It could be either one company having its own Section 8 company, etc., etc. Okay, or 2-3 companies can come together, join hands, form a Section 8 company or a trust or a society, whatever it is, and later on they could be spending the amounts through that particular trust which they have jointly formed. Trust bolo, society bolo, Section 8 company bolo, whatever it is. Okay, you will be carrying on the activities through that trust. So either you can do it like this, or you can do it through a trust, Section 8 registered trust or society established by central government or state government or any entity established under an act of parliament or a state legislature. Okay. So for example, you are an entity in the providing consultancy services. Okay, you are a private limited company. CSR is applicable to you. Okay, I'm just giving an example. So because of CSR being applicable, what do? Is you put your money in ICAI Accounting Research Foundation, ARF. Okay, Accounting Research Foundation is a Section 8 company formed by ICAI, which is established under the Act of Parliament. Okay, so is ICAI Accounting Research Foundation Section 8 company? Yes. Is it established by an entity established under the Act of Parliament? Yes, it's established by ICAI. So for promoting accounting research, so any payments that are made to the ICAI Accounting Research Foundation by this entity will qualify as CSR activities being done. Okay, a company may also collaborate with other companies for undertaking projects or programs or CSR activities in a manner such that the CSR committees are in a position to report separately in accordance with these rules. Okay, may report. So you have 2-3 companies joining hands for a huge CSR project. For example, it was COVID. You needed to airlift patients, for example. Now, airlifting is a huge cost job that is there. So what happens? Say Tata's, Reliance and Adani Group, they came together only for the purposes of airlifting the patients. And they decided to share the cost in a particular percentage. Now, if that is the case, then what will happen is, if you are able to segregate, then well enough, you can do that jointly also. Acha, Sheena Jain is saying Infosys Foundation has to separately spend for CSR. Definitely. So Infosys will spend its CSR money through Infosys Foundation. Additionally, Infosys Foundation also may be meeting 135(1) requirements. So Infosys Foundation will have to spend its own CSR spends also separately. No problem in that. No problem, absolutely. Okay. But typically these Section 8 companies and all, what these companies do is they'll collect the monies only for the purpose of spending for their company. So Infosys Foundation gets the money only from Infosys. Uske khud ke donations may not be there. Okay. And if that is the case, Section 135 may not be applicable to Infosys Foundation in reality. Okay. It depends. It depends. Okay. But yes, if 135(1) is applicable to Infosys Foundation also, then Infosys Foundation will have to spend CSR for two entities, one for itself and one for the Infosys company to whom CSR is applicable, Okay. So that takes care of the important points, and activities should be undertaken only in India. Activities should be undertaken only in India. Ab bahar jaake you may be whatever good you may be doing, we are not concerned. CSR is going to happen only in India, nowhere else. Okay. All right. Now what company started to do? Acha, CSR na, we will build schools only for our employees' children. We will not charge fees. So ho gaya CSR. Why? You are building schools within the local area for the benefit of your employees. It is benefiting the society. You will say, my employees are a society also, and I am taking the benefit from them in the form of human resource for our labor, and I am giving the benefits back to them. So we have met the requirements of CSR. Sir, it's not like that. Your CSR should be a genuine expenditure. When you build schools only for your employees, what will happen is your employees are getting an extra incentive to work for you, and they will work for you, giving benefits to you. So wo genuine kaise? CSR say it should not benefit the company in any manner. CSR should genuinely result in an outflow of resources. Aise na, you cannot do any event that masks the fact that you are doing corporate social responsibility. And therefore, what you will have to do is you will have to check. You cannot restrict the CSR only to your employees. Okay. CSR projects that benefit only the employees of the company cannot be considered as CSR activities. Nahi hoga. It is limiting it. It should benefit the society. Okay. So this is the case. Companies may build CSR capacities of their own personnel as well as those of implementing agencies. ठीक है. Contribution to any political party. वो CSR थोड़ी ही है. वो तो it is a benefit for you. Political parties are not known to be a charitable organization in the truest sense. Okay. Government also knows that what they're collecting for party fund is not going for any charitable activity. Okay. So therefore, contribution to any political party, directly or indirectly, is not considered as a CSR activity. These are some important points for you to remember. Okay. Just go through this question as homework. Nothing special to discuss in that. Okay. Acha. Schedule 7 tells you where you can spend, and it is a very beautiful schedule that is there. Okay. Eradicating hunger, poverty, malnutrition. Contribution to Swachh Bharat Kosh for promotion of sanitation and making available safe drinking water. You go to villages, even in Karnataka or any other village, people walk kilometers together to get water. So where I come from, in that village, 20 liters of water, drinking water, safe water, is given for 1 rupee. 20 liters of water. It will come, you can come, you can call for a tanker, it will come and put 20 liters for you. Okay. Now this is a social CSR. This is a CSR activity. Okay. So it is being made available to people who are genuinely suffering from water problem. Okay, so you have a company, Kirloskar or somebody, okay, to do this. In fact, while going to my native, now Kirloskar has put in public toilets on the road, right, and well maintained public toilets to convenience of the surrounding people, as well as for the convenience of the people who travel on that road, and they are well maintained toilets. It's specifically mentioned it's maintained by Kirloskar as a part of their CSR policy. Okay, so you can do something, okay, for promotion of sanitation, that is hygiene and cleanliness. Okay, you could also spend for promoting education, including special education and employment, enhancing vocation skills, etc., etc. Promote gender equality, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, empowering women, setting up homes and hostels for women and orphans, old age homes, daycare centers for senior citizens, etc. Ensuring environmental sustainability, okay, social ecological balance, contribution to the Clean Ganga Fund. Ganga is a legal person, okay, and contributions made to the Clean Ganga Fund is also a CSR foundation, okay, for rejuvenation of our river Ganga. Okay, protection of national heritage, art and culture, including restoration of buildings and sites of historical importance. You have a lot of restoration activities in, say, Ajanta Ellora caves, or down south the Chola temples in Tanjavur, or even the Rameshwaram temples, or in Mumbai you look at the CST station, which is a historical site, or even in north you have monuments like Qutub Minar or these Taj Mahal, etc., where you consistently have restoration being carried out. It's important to carry out restoration because these are our monuments of national importance, and therefore if you assist in them, it will be regarded as CSR. Measures for benefit of armed forces veterans, war widows and their dependents. Obviously, when you make contribution to these funds, it will be regarded as a CSR. Promote rural sports, nationally recognized sports and Olympic sports. Okay, contribution to PM Relief Fund, PM Cares Fund, any other fund set up by the central government for socio-economic development and relief and welfare of the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward classes, minorities, etc. Contribution to incubators or R&D projects, accepted. Contribution to public funded universities, IITs, national laboratories, biotechnology, Ayush, all these CSIR, etc., you are permitted. Rural development project, slum area development, disaster management, etc., etc. So all these are going to go as a part of your permissible activities under CSR. Okay, going to go as permissible activities under CSR. Okay, so that takes care in general of our CSR activities. Okay, now can you spend in kind? Can you spend in kind? Okay, now here there is a small issue that is there. Some inconsistencies are there. So I will refer to that as we go. Okay, as we go. Okay, now expenditure made in kind. Expenditure made in kind. Okay, a company may spend in kind also. That means not necessarily cash. It may choose to give goods. It may choose to give some articles. Okay, it is important to find whether spending in kind is covered under CSR or not. For example, company acquires or purchases goods, not manufacturing. This is not manufacturing. Be careful. Okay, not manufacturing. It manufactures, it acquires or purchases goods and distributes or uses the same in the CSR projects, which is allowed as a CSR spend. So there are these floods that keep happening in states like West Bengal, Orissa. Sometimes you have floods down south also. Okay, these floods wreak havoc. They uproot houses. People are homeless for days and weeks together. So companies like L&T or these big companies to whom CSR is applicable, what they will do, suppose they will make food packets. So food packets mein what they will put? They will put rice, they will put Parle-G biscuits, they will put sanitary napkins, all these small issues, small things required for day-to-day use. They will make packets of them. Now these companies do not deal in such goods. L&T does not manufacture sanitary napkins. L&T does not manufacture Parle-G biscuits, but still it buys those goods, puts them in a pack, and it sends them to the flood prone areas or flood affected areas. Now when it sends to the flood affected areas, it has purchased these goods and it is giving them for public welfare to the society. Will it be a CSR expenditure? Yes, it is going to be a CSR expenditure. Now if a company manufactures its goods, and distributes those goods and services free of charge, you cannot call it as CSR. You cannot call it as CSR. Suppose Parle-G itself had to give Parle-G biscuits to the flood affected areas. Nahi ho sakta. You cannot call it as a CSR. Sir, why can it not happen? See, there is a very thin line between CSR spends and brand promotion. Okay. If Parle-G distributes its biscuits, it may amount to Parle-G distributing its brands. Or kaun sa brand hai, Parle-G is famous, all that is fine. I respect your sentiments, but it looks like it is a brand promotion exercise. And therefore, to maintain the genuineness of CSR expenditure, the statute is clear that company manufacturing its own goods, which it distributes as free samples, is not a CSR spend, But for a pharmaceutical company, there is an exception. For a pharmaceutical company, there is an exception. Donating medicines, drugs, etc. is relatable to healthcare, and therefore if pharma companies distribute their drugs free, so it will distribute paracetamol or it will distribute some painkillers, some antibiotics free of charge to flood affected areas. If that is the case, then though the pharma company itself is manufacturing, you will not say it is a brand promotion exercise. You will say that it is a CSR expenditure. Okay, so CSR expenditure made in kind. Manufacturing entity distributing own goods, not CSR. Exclusion is pharmaceutical companies. However, company purchases other goods and distributes, that is going to be your CSR expenditure. Hospital rendering free medical services as per local government guidelines is not CSR. So suppose 25% of your total patient's treatment should be free. This is not CSR. This is a government imposition on you. Okay, this is a government imposition on you. Now, in COVID, there were guidelines by the governments that for every hospital, 20% of the beds should go for COVID care. Now, is it CSR? Can such hospitals like Fortis or Apollo say, no, we are doing CSR because we are giving free treatment under COVID? No, that is a government guideline. You are not doing it out of your own choice. It is the government imposition for you, and therefore it will not be a CSR spend. However, beyond that threshold, free medical services beyond 25%, that is an example, okay, may be considered as CSR spends. So suppose you gave 20 beds as per government guidelines, but you chose to treat 25 patients as free of cost. So those 5 extra patients, whatever medicines you gave, doctor's cost for that, whatever you have spent, it will be regarded as a CSR expenditure. Okay. Company manufacturing goods distributes or sells goods other than those which it manufactures in the normal course of business. Yes. If it does something specially which it does not normally do and distributes that, it will be regarded as a CSR spend. For example, manufacturer of steel rods manufactures steel beds and it distributes steel beds. to hospitals free. If that is the case, it will be regarded as a CSR spend. But if these beds are sold means you have gotten the money for that, then it is not a CSR. Then it is not a CSR. But giving it free of charge would be a CSR spend, would be a corporate social responsibility expenditure. Is it okay? So these are some of the what you can say, these are some of the discussions that we had regarding your expenditure. Okay, in kind, expenditure in kind. Okay, now coming to the next part, nature of CSR spends. You can take a note, you can make a note of this, okay. Now revenue expenditure, expense to P&L. No ambiguity. CSR spend hai, it is a revenue expenditure. Like for example, you contributed to any fund, or you have managed, you have contributed to a midday meal scheme, or for gender equality, whatever it is, you have spent the amount, and therefore it is a revenue expenditure. What are you going to do? You will expense it to the profit and loss account. You will expense it to the P&L. I'll give a break. Okay, I may finish the session early, so let us see. Okay, I may give a break if I look that the session is extending, or in another, if I can complete within half an hour, I'll not give a break. I'll complete the session early and leave you guys. Okay, Okay. So revenue expenditure, you expense it to the profit and loss. Suppose you incur capex, you incur capital expenditure. Capex means construction of schools, construction of hospitals, all these things you are going to do. Now, when you incur capital expenditure, there are two options or two avenues which are available to the company. First one, transfer the asset created to others. Others means what? Example, Section 8 company, village panchayat, government, etc. Okay. For example, these companies started to manufacture oxygen concentrators. Okay. So that becomes an asset. It does not deal in that. Okay. It would be regarded as an asset. You have transferred it to government. You create a school. That school you transfer to village panchayat. Now, when you are intending to transfer the asset, is the asset going to remain in your books? Nahi, wo mera asset hai hi nahi. It's not my asset. And if it is not my asset, what am I going to do with this? Expense the capex to P&L. Yaar, mera intention hai hi nahi. I don't want to keep this building. This building is for the village panchayat, so it can run the school for the children there. So expense this to the P&L. It is not my asset. See, for an asset, what is the definition? It should be a resource controlled by the entity. I'm not controlling the school building. Yeah, I'm giving it to the village panchayat for it to control. And therefore, I am going to expense it to the P&L, even though I am incurring a capital expenditure. However, if company chooses to own such asset, for example, this school building that I am manufacturing. Now, if I choose to what you can say, own the school building. Sir, why will companies own the school building? Because they do not trust the panchayat. See, panchayats and all these small government bodies or semi-government bodies or rural bodies, jo bhi hai, they are generally notorious for corruption. Okay, so if you transfer the school that you have constructed to a village panchayat, it may be possible that the panchayat will do other activities in that, and it will not carry out the school activities. Okay, it will not carry out the schooling activities. So you have given it out of intent, but the intent is not being met. So you know that fact, and therefore what the company tells, we will make the school, we will maintain the school, we will manage the school ourselves. Okay, we will manage the school ourselves. And therefore in this case, asset appears in the books of the company. Asset appears in the books of the company. Okay, so if that is the case, what will happen? What will happen? Okay, two things are there. Two things are there. First one, capex incurred is recognized as CSR spends. Capex incurred is recognized as CSR spends. Obviously, the moment you start to construct this school, you will treat it as CSR spends, and report it in the CSR report as I have constructed this school and I have spent 70 crore. Now, it will meet CSR spends requirement, absolutely no doubt for it. But now coming to Ind AS 16, is this your asset? Yes. Have you chosen to transfer the asset? No. Is this your asset? Yes. Will it appear in your books? Yes. Will it go in the balance sheet? Yes. You are the one owning this asset, maintaining this asset, and therefore Ind AS 16 tells us better than depreciate this asset. Okay. So depreciation is charged on the asset. Will this depreciation also amount to CSR spends? Answer is no, because the asset, you have already taken the whole spends as CSR spends. So again, you cannot take depreciation. Okay, so depreciation not recognized as CSR spends. Depreciation not recognized as CSR spends. Okay, but will you depreciate? Yes, it's mandatory for you to depreciate. Karna hi hai apne ko. We have to depreciate. Okay, no second thoughts about it. Okay, because it is an asset that I am owning, that I am controlling, and therefore it is going to be depreciated. So your capex is initially booked as CSR. Depreciation will not be recognized as CSR expense. Fair enough? Did you follow this? Did you follow this? Yes? Any doubts, guys? Yes? Clear? Guys, please respond. Yeah, please respond. Is it clear? Have you noted it down? Yes. No response. I assume it is clear then. Okay. Now see, this is how the things are actually. This is how the things are actually. Okay. And this is what you are going to remember for your exam purposes. This is what you are going to remember for your exam purposes. But actually, there is an amendment that has happened. This amendment is not specifically given in your study module as an amendment. They have included it here only. Okay. They have included it here only. Okay. But what the amendment tells us, see, why this amendment had to come into existence, let us understand that first. Okay, you construct a school building. Okay, now you paid 70 crores for that. Now the building is appearing in your books. You will charge depreciation. Because you will charge depreciation, your net profit goes down. Your net profit goes down. Now in the subsequent years, if you are going to if CSR provisions are going to be applicable to you, your CSR spends will reduce. Sir, why will they reduce? Because you have charged depreciation. Sir, why I charge depreciation? Because asset is there in your books. But this asset is a CSR asset. CSR assets are not supposed to give you any benefit. Any CSR expenditure should not give any form of benefit to the company. In this case, the CSR assets remaining in the books of the assets, remaining in the books of the company, you will depreciate them, no doubt. But it is giving a benefit in the form of reduced profits and therefore reduced CSR spends in the future. That the government wanted to avoid. And therefore, 22nd January 2021, there was an amendment that came into existence which said that any capital asset prepared, incurred, constructed, acquired as a part of CSR spends should be transferred either to a trust or to a society or to a Section 8 company or to self-help groups. Any of these categories, it must be transferred mandatorily within 180 days. Within 180 days. If not possible within 180 days, transfer it within a period of further 90 days. But overall, within 270 days, you will have to transfer that asset to 4 categories. Section 8 company, or to a registered trust, or to a registered society, or to self-help groups. That asset cannot remain in the books of the company that constructed the asset. Okay. So this is the amendment that is there, but it's not specifically given in the institute as an amendment. So you follow what we have discussed. That's about it. Okay. So this is how you are going to treat this particular provision. Okay. Sairam is asking, sir, what is the tax impact of depreciation on such building? Will it be allowable or not? Obviously, it will not be allowable. It is not for your business purposes. You construct a school building. Yeah, your business is manufacturing infrastructure. School building is not your business, and therefore will it be regarded as an expenditure for tax purposes? Answer is no. You cannot claim the expense. Is it okay? So that is the small amendment which is not there in your study module. Doesn't matter. You stick to this. You stick to this. That was just a part of our discussion. Okay. Now look at the things which are mentioned here. Okay. This is okay. Now this particular part is inconsistent. This particular part is inconsistent. Sir, why it is inconsistent? Why it is inconsistent? See, a company may supply goods manufactured by it or render services as CSR activities. And now look at what we have studied here. what we have studied, manufacturing or dealing in goods or services distributes those goods free of charge may not be covered in CSR spends. And now look at this. Company may supply goods manufactured by it as CSR activities. The expenditure should be recognized when the control on the goods is transferred or the allowable services are rendered. So this is inconsistent with page, what is that page? Page number 17.17. Section or para number 5.4. Okay. Para 5.4. It is inconsistent. So how will you interpret it? Well, you can interpret it in either two ways. Okay. It will either mean a pharma company manufacturing the goods by itself, or it will mean any company purchasing the goods. Okay. Purchasing the goods, not manufacturing. Okay, so that is the inconsistency which is there here. Okay, so if a pharma company manufactures and distributes, it is CSR. If a company buys and distributes, it is CSR. But any company manufacturing and distributing those goods cannot be CSR. Okay, so that is the inconsistency. What they have said, the goods should be valued in accordance with Ind AS 2. The services rendered should be at cost. Acha, the next important part is, can I claim input tax credit? GST input tax credit, can I claim it? Answer is no, you cannot. GST is allowed as an input only for furtherance of business. It should be related to your business activity. It should be goods or services which are used for the purposes of an output supply which is taxable. Now, when you are manufacturing or buying the goods for CSR activities, your outward supply is not taxable, and therefore in this case you cannot avail input tax credit under GST. No input tax credit allowed for CSR spends. No input tax credit allowed, because outward supply is not taxable, it is charitable. Okay, it is not related to your business, it is CSR. No input tax credit allowed for CSR spends. Treat GST paid as CSR expenditure straight away. Whatever is the input tax credit, treat it as a CSR spend. Treat it as a CSR expense. Okay, so that is how you are going to treat the GST that is there. Okay, so that takes care of this inconsistency which was there. You should be in a position to do illustration 8 as homework. You should be in a position to do illustration 8. Okay, now, okay, so this takes care. We have done this part. Okay, this is all the capex which we have discussed. Asset, recognize it as an asset. If it is being transferred to a gram panchayat, do not recognize as an asset, need to be recognized as an expense in the P&L as and when incurred. Okay, so read this. We have discussed this in that chart. Okay, so this is what is there for you. You can make contribution to funds. You can make it through a trust, society, or Section 8 company, or in any other way. Example, on its own. You just go on spending the money and treat it as an expense. Okay. If it is a contribution to a fund, treat it as an expense. In case the amount is spent as in paragraph B, that is through a trust, then also you recognize it as an expense. Okay, so or if it is on its own also, you would be treating it either as capex or you will be treating it as revenue expenditure, as the case may be, and the treatment we have discussed. Okay, so this part also is done. All right, fair enough. So 5.4 is done. 5.3 we have discussed already, carried forward for 3 successive financial years. Okay, so this is done. All right, Now, yes. Yes. Okay. So 5.3 is done. 5.2 ongoing project we have discussed. We will come to the accounting entries now. Okay. Revenue expenditure also we have discussed. That kind of almost completes our discussion on CSR. Now we will come to accounting entries or journal entries. Okay. Journal entries for CSR. Journal entries for CSR. Okay. Now, first one, expenditure in cash. Straight away, CSR spends, which typically goes to the P&L, debit to cash bank. Assuming that you have spent the full amount, it goes straight away to cash bank. Okay. Now, expenditure in kind. So you are purchasing. So when you purchase, the entry will be purchases account debit to cash bank or creditors. And can you transfer at selling price? No, you are not selling. You are transferring the goods. So the entry will be CSR spends, which goes to the P&L, debit to purchases. To purchases. This is at cost. This is at cost. Okay. At cost. Is it okay? Fairly simple. Have you understood the first two journal entries? Have you understood the first two journal entries? Yes. Arey, did you understand? Did you understand? Yes. Have you understood these two? Very simple. So we move on next to the third one. Acha. Now tell me, CSR spends. Is it an obligation now for you? Is it an obligation? अपने को CSR spend करना ही करना है. Is that the scenario right now? Earlier it wasn't. It was spend 2% or explain why you did not spend. So obligation was not there. But now is there an obligation? Yes, we have studied 135.5 second proviso. If you don't know where to spend within 6 months, whatever is not spent, transfer it to that fund under section, under schedule 7. If I know where to spend, ongoing project, transfer within 30 days, complete project within 3 financial years. And then within 30 days from end of third financial year, transfer to the fund if you have not yet completed the project. Means there is an obligation upon you to incur the expenses. And therefore, you have to expense entire 2% to the profit and loss. To the profit and loss. So the entry will be, this is for CSR obligations. Entry will be CSR spends account debit. This will go to the P&L. Your obligation is for net profit into 2%. You have to recognize this. You have to recognize this. And then to bank or purchases. It is in cash or kind, whatever it is. And for the amount not spent, for the amount not yet spent, it is a liability. It is a liability. So to CSR, what you can say, to CSR spends payable. To CSR spends payable or outstanding. Transferred, wait, not transferred. To be transferred to funds, to be transferred to funds. This is in case of second proviso to section 135(5), undecided amount. If you are sure where to spend, okay, it is going to be CSR spends P&L debit. This will be the full 2%, net profit into 2% to bank or purchases, and you create a liability for what is not incurred to unspent CSR account, transfer to escrow account. Okay. Obviously, this will be a balancing figure. This is section 135(6). This is section 135 subsection 6. So this is your entry that you are going to pass. And then the fourth one is going to be prepaid or excess CSR spends. You are choosing to treat as an asset. So CSR spends debit. This will be the minimum, that is net profit into 2%. You have spent extra, so to bank / purchases, and then this will be prepaid CSR spends debit. Balancing figure. To prepaid, CSR spends prepaid will be debited as an asset. This is, ये कौन सा था section? I guess this is third proviso, right? This has to be your third proviso. Yes, third proviso. Third proviso to section 135(5). Third proviso to section 135(5). Acha, if you choose not to carry it forward, what are you going to do? CSR spends to bank entire amount. There is nothing else that you need to do. If you are not carrying it forward, don't do anything. Okay. So this is your journal entries. Please cooperate another 10-15 minutes and I'll wind up the session. Simply if I give a break, the flow will break off. Just cooperate. Okay. So I have almost coming to the close of the chapter. Okay. Almost coming to close of the chapter. Everything is discussed. Just one or two small points and then we shall wind up the session. Okay. All right. Are the journal entries clear till now? Ranjit, Priya Garg, Sai Ram, Sheena Jain. Then there was one more girl, new girl today. Himanshi Setia and Srinidhi. Yes. Are the journal entries clear till now? Are the journal entries clear so far? Yes. Just put in a yes or no or something. Yes. All clear? Yes. Please respond. Okay, Sai Ram has confirmed. All right. So now coming to the last part, that is income generated from CSR projects. This is the major part that is there now. Then just the tax impact and we are done. Some disclosures and we are done. Okay. So income generated from CSR projects. See, coming back to the example of that school which we were discussing. Okay. See, L&T constructed a school. It did not want to give the school to the Gram Panchayat. Okay, forget that amendment which is there. It's not applicable for you. That amendment is there, but now let us come back to the study module. Let us come back to reality. And these income from CSR projects, L&T has this school. It chose to keep the school with itself. It is maintaining the school. And L&T takes a small income from the students who are coming to the school. Why it takes? So that the students come to the school on a regular basis. Free mein doge, people do not value it. Okay, so they are collecting a small amount of fee. So L&T collects ₹1 per annum from each student at the school constructed and owned by L&T. Constructed and owned by L&T. So now total fees collected ₹1,000. Just a nominal fee. Just a nominal fee. Now, money has come. Yes. It is income for L&T. Yes. This income is from CSR project. Yes. So, first entry that L&T will pass is bank account debit 1,000 to income from CSR project. 1,000. This is the first entry that L&T is going to pass when it gets the money. Okay. Now, what is CSR? Sir, CSR is expenditure. For whom? For the benefit of the society. But sir, here ulta ho raha hai na. L&T constructed the school and L&T is getting a benefit. So what the section tells us is, the moment you have companies getting a small benefit from CSR, an expenditure equivalent to the benefit should be recognized as an obligation immediately. So the moment you got this, you will pass the next entry. CSR spends debit how much? 1,000 to CSR spends payable. This is 1,000. Now this expenditure, remember, this is over and above 2% minimum spends. Over and above 2% minimum spends. So now what happens? Income will cancel out the expense. So the company is not benefiting. It has to pay whatever 1,000 it has collected towards CSR. This is obviously cannot be a part of 2%. This is over and above that 2%. This is over and above that 2% minimum spends. Is it okay? So this is how you are going to recognize. This is how you are going to recognize the income and immediately the corresponding CSR spends. Immediately the corresponding CSR spends. Okay. Recognize the liability and you will have to treat it as a liability liability to be incurred within ongoing project. All those things will continue. Okay, so this is what is going to be your treatment in the case of income generated from CSR projects. Okay, so that takes care of this part. 5.5, 5.6 also is taken care of. Okay, you can check here. Surplus means excess of income over expenditure. What does it say? Whether such surplus should be recognized as an income. Whether it should be recognized as an income. Since surplus arising from CSR is not a transaction with owners, it would be considered as income. So immediately recognize a liability for CSR expenditure in the balance sheet and recognize a charge to the statement of profit and loss account. Okay, so recognize income first and immediately recognize an expense with a corresponding liability. So such surplus would not form part of the 2%. I told you it's over and above the 2%. Okay, so that is what we have done. We have discussed journal entries. You can go through. Okay. Acha, CSR expenditure in the income tax scenario, it is application of income not allowed as a deduction for computing taxable income. Not allowed. Okay. So go through this for homework. Nothing else is there to disclose. Acha, what will you present in the financial statements? How are you going to present? Okay. You will have to show that amount of expenditure incurred on CSR shall be disclosed by way of a note. So show it separately. For better financial reporting, show it as a separate line item in the statement of profit and loss. Fair enough. Relevant note should disclose breakup of heads of expense. How much you have paid to funds, how much you have incurred as expenditure, what you have paid, all these things you can do that. It may also happen that a company is incurring losses, but it may still satisfy other conditions. 1,000 crore turnover, but it has made a loss in the previous year. So I will not be required to spend anything. But I still have to fulfill other requirements like CSR committee, constitution, disclosures, etc. Okay. Since there are no profits, company may not spend any amount, but it will disclose the reason for not spending any amount in the board report. Okay. For not spending any amount in the board report. Okay. Notes to accounts relating to CSR should include these part. Okay. Related party transactions you disclose. Amendments. What is the 135.5 unspent amount? What is the opening balance? How much is deposited within 6 months to be spent, amount spent, and closing balance? You will give these details. Okay. And 135.5, this is the details for ongoing projects. Okay. So these are the disclosures which are made. These are the disclosures which are made. So that takes care of CSR. And I'm having a question from Sheena Jain, illustration 3. Illustration 3. Okay. Where is illustration 3? Okay. In illustration 3, rupees 20,000 is not CSR because it is not paid, or because I am not sure. You are saying illustration 3. So this is illustration 3. Are you saying anything else, Sheena? Which illustration 3? Just confirm your query. Okay. We will see some questions. Again, there are some inconsistencies here. Okay. A property is being constructed to operate CSR activities. The cost of construction is treated as revenue expenditure, but you will have to mention the expenditure disclosed with relation to construction of a capital asset in the notes. Okay, so these are the additional disclosures. So that is done. All right. Now, question number 2. Question number 2 is inconsistent. Okay, now I will explain why it is inconsistent. See, this is rule number 3 sub rule 2. Okay. Rule 3, sub rule 2 of the CSR rules. What does it say? Every company which ceases to be a company covered under 135.1. 135.1 is companies under CSR. Every company which stops to be a company for 3 consecutive financial years shall not be required to constitute a CSR committee or comply with the provisions of CSR. Here, it is saying that the company should not be a CSR applicable company for 3 continuous financial years. This was true prior to amendment. This held true prior to amendment to 135.1. 135.1 earlier you had to look at preceding 3 years turnover, preceding 3 years net worth, preceding 3 years net profits. However, now we are looking at immediately preceding year, and therefore in applicability also you will be referring to you will have to refer to the preceding year only. You cannot refer to the 3 consecutive financial years, and therefore the rule is inconsistent with the section. They have not modified the rule. Karna chahiye tha, but it is MCA government hai, they changed the section, they did not change the rules. Sir, hame kya karna hai? What should we do? Well, be correct. You know that rules are just a support to the section, and therefore look at the section. Section says preceding financial year, so ignore this rule. And therefore, if you look at the solution to question 2, look at the question. XYZ falls in the purview for X1 as per Companies Act because the net profit exceeded 5 crores. Company discharged CSR obligations in the year X2. Net profit for X2 was less than 5 crores. It was not satisfying the 2 other criteria of 135. Therefore, company stopped performing CSR activities from X3. Okay. So the story goes something like this. Okay. The story goes something like this. So 20x1 falls within the purview. Okay. 20x1 condition is met. So 20x2 discharge CSR obligations. But here conditions are not met. Which conditions? 135.1. Here 135.1 was met, and therefore 20x2 you had to discharge CSR obligations. In 20x2 you discharged the CSR based on 20x1 applicability, but in 20x2 the conditions are not met, and therefore in 20x3 did not perform CSR. Did not perform CSR. So now the question is, comment on the company's accountability. The treatment is correct as per the amendment. The treatment is correct as per the amendment. But look at the answer which is given. XYZ falls in ambit of CSR by fulfilling criteria exceeding 5 crores. So discharge the CSR obligations by spending 2% every year starting from X2 till 20X4. This particular thing is inconsistent. This is inconsistent. I'm not saying institute is wrong. I'm saying that institute has given the answer according to rule 3.2. It has followed rule 3 sub rule 2 of CSR rules, which is not correct. Okay, rules have to modify to reflect the section. Now 20x3, when you are looking, you will check whether 20x2 the conditions are fulfilled or not. Here the conditions are not fulfilled. So will CSR apply in 20x3? Answer is no. Sir, what do we do? Better stick to the act. Stick to the act. You cannot say that, I cannot say that stick to the module here, because module has followed the rule, but we know that act is having preference over the rules. Okay, so it is not mentioned in the rules that overriding the provisions of the Companies Act. नहीं बोल सकता भाई, कोई rule नहीं बोल सकता ऐसा. Okay, so therefore my advice is company is right here. Give a detailed explanation, and this answer is not consistent with the section. It is consistent with the rules. Now MCA is at fault here for not modifying the rules. Okay, so that is my interpretation, which is how I would have answered the question. Okay, coming to the next one, company is incorporated during X1, X2. As per eligibility criteria, company is covered under 135(1) for FY X3, X4. Whether CSR provisions apply to a company not completing 3 financial years? Yes, definitely it will apply. Definitely it will apply. Okay. Definitely it will apply. So no doubts about this also. So that takes care of question number 3. Okay. So now Sheena Jain has a query from an earlier module. So let me see. This is the earlier module that I have. Illustration 3. I hope I get it. If it is the earlier module than this, then it okay. Okay, correct. So illustration 3, yeah, it is the same one. This is what we had discussed. Okay, what we had discussed here, it is, I guess, illustration 4, suppose. Yeah, here it is illustration 4. 20,000 is not going to come as an expense here because you have not spent it. Okay, because you have not spent it. Okay, it is a CSR type expenditure. It is a CSR type expenditure because it is paid for protecting the environment. However, you have only earmarked. I will give this. You have set the amount aside, but you have not paid. And therefore, you cannot take it as a CSR expenditure. Okay, it's not paid to the foundation. Absolutely right. Okay, it is otherwise a CSR expenditure if you had to pay it. But because you have not paid, because you have not spent, it will not be a CSR expenditure. When will it be a CSR expenditure? Either you have actually paid for it or you have an obligation to pay. Obligation to pay is Ind AS 37. When do you recognize a provision or when do you recognize a liability? When you have an obligation. When you have an obligation. Okay. So that concludes our discussion on CSR. Nothing is left. Anybody has any doubts, please let me know. I took 2.5 hours at a stretch because I thought I could complete it by 9:30, and yeah, I have completed by 9:30. So any doubts that are there, please go through it. All the points are covered. Nothing is left from my side. Acha, one more small inconsistency that is there. It's not material, but just for you to understand, in the rules they have defined net profit to mean the net profit as per the financial statements, not including overseas branch profits, not including dividend received from companies complying with section 135. Okay, all this is not right. Okay, net profit is section 198 profit straight away. This is the meaning of profit. From where I'm getting this definition? Explanation to section 135(5). So don't look at this rule. This rule also is inconsistent. Okay, this rule also is inconsistent. वो क्यों ऐसा किया पता नहीं. Okay, they have matlab that is how certain government departments are functioning. There is no proper coordination. So stick to the module what we have discussed, except for test your knowledge question 2. That answer is not right. Okay, so I would suggest ki wo answer aap mat likho. Okay, because I cannot teach you something that is totally wrong, right? That is my personal understanding. Okay, so with that we conclude CSR. It's all done. And today happens to be my last session with this batch. Your batch is going to complete in the next couple of days. So it was a pleasure teaching all of you. We have rushed up. We have done a lot of things. Consolidation. We also did EPS. We discussed a number of other Ind ASs also. Okay, with income. I think I had also taken fair value measurement for you, and then we did the amendment on the framework chapter that is there. Okay, so please pay attention to the framework chapter. It's very important. You can expect important questions coming from the framework. The other chapters you are anyways aware of what is important, what is not so important. Okay, so I have nothing much to add. Study well. We are always accessible on mails, so you can mail us. Okay, and study well, do a good study. Wishing you all the success. God willing, if our paths cross at some point of time in the future, I would be glad to meet you personally. Okay, that is not in my hands. Okay, so all the best once again, and that's it. I don't have anything else to add. Okay, so wish you all the best. I look forward to seeing you as members of this August fraternity of ours. Okay, pass ho jao, get a rank. Okay, do not stop at any point of time. Do not expect mediocre marks from yourselves. Each one of you is able to score a rank, so try to achieve it. Okay, each one of you have your unique talents, your unique qualities. Make maximum use of them. Answer your exams with full confidence. I pray to God to give you all success in all your future endeavors. Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you.